debugging, testing, and fixing your Electron application. So the Visual Studio Code Editor or IDE. Visual Studio Code or VS Code is actually an open source code editor. IDE that has got famous among a lot of developers, a lot of web developers uses it and loves it due to its modularity, performance, and its own rich features. It includes a lot of features like you can install your own extensions, you can create extensions, and so on and so forth. It has a large set of extensions that it can pretty much allow you to do anything for any purpose you want that can help you either debugging, working with errors, fixing your code, and so on and so forth. We'll be using this IDE or code editor in our favor to debug Electron applications with ease and fix, of course, and discover bugs and issues inside of our code. So Electron might be a little bit tricky when it comes to debugging it since it has two processes. So Visual Studio Code makes that easier for us throughout its own debugging environment, and it can allow us to do that in an easy way without issues or hassles. You can use it as a normal code editor or with its fancy debugging environment, which basically can run and debug Node.js processes. And of course, as an Electron is actually based on Node.js, we can easily go ahead and debug that too. While debugging, you can be tiring and a bit boring without using the right tool sets and debuggers for quickly identifying bugs and fixing related issues. That's the main point. You should think about using a debugger, especially Visual Studio Code specifically, because it has a lot of features and a lot of people using it, so the community and the support is really enough for you guys. So why using an actual debugger? It simply makes it easier for you to debug and fix your bugs rather than just looking for bugs in tons of thousands of lines of code without knowing where to exactly head and where to exactly is actually causing the issue. You can use a debugger and you can place some breakpoints to know exactly what is going on behind the scenes on your code. Easier code maintenance is actually really important. You can use a debugger for maintaining your code, and you can, analyze, and it gives you detailed analytics about when the code is actually running, like the variable at runtime, and it gives you some objects so you can specifically take a quick look on how those are being manipulated. Both render and main processes are actually supported throughout Visual Studio Code throughout some specific configuration script we'll be looking at in a second, so it can easily allow you to run simultaneously the main process alongside the render process without any issues. So you can also get detailed stack trace and local variables of the current module at runtime, and this is really helpful, especially at runtime. You can check some variables, what are the actual value inside of these variables, and the object, if it is defined or any issue inside of it, and so on and so forth. So here's a Visual Studio Code, the whole IDE we'll be using throughout the course series. So yeah, this is basically the index.js, our main entry point for our application. Now to start the debugger, you just need to go to the right hand side, which has the debug. You can just access it by Control-Shift-D or in Mac. So you can just go to the debug and you get this interface right over here. So you first need to go ahead and put a configuration together. So you can just get to the list and you could do add configuration. It's just gonna completely take you to a brand new launch.json file. This file is gonna be actually located inside of .visual studio code inside of your projects directory. So make sure if you're trying to put this inside of git version control or anything like that, or back it up, make sure to back that up too, so the configuration will work on anything or any machine that gets this code. So the actual configuration in here is actually has in a couple of objects. So I've put this specific objects to actually run both the main process and the render process. So we got first is actually each configuration is actually an object that describes how the current configuration pretty much runs and debugs the code, so we can tell the Visual Studio Code debugger to work alongside the application. So this one actually we're using the node runtime, so we can use it with the main process. The request is actually to launch a brand new process. We'll just give it a quick name to identify it from the list above here, which is Electron main, just for starting the Electron main process. We got the protocol, which is inspector, so we can actually easily inspect like the Node.js process, and this is specifically made for Node.js versions up 6.3. And the runtime executable in here, it just gives it which is the runtime. And this is the best part, or pretty much the tricky part. So make sure to set the executable runtime to use Electron, simply because we are going to use Electron as the runtime, and it's just going to take our code and run it. So make sure to reference the bin directory from your node modules to the Electron. The other thing, there's actually the args, or the arguments that you're going to supply whenever you're running Electron. So when you run the Electron command, you're going to be supplying some arguments. You can put them inside of this array inside of here. So the arguments is actually giving it the path of where is the file is actually located. It is inside of src index.js. And we got also some runtime arguments, so you can just go ahead and do remote debugging. And for the debugging ports, we just specify 9223 for actually initializing the debugging process. And we can attach both the Electron and the Visual Studio Code debugger to work together. And finally, for a specific Windows configuration, we're just gonna go ahead and run the CMD instead of normal Electron, because sometimes it has the CMD inside of the bin directory. This is only for Windows though, so if you're like Mac or Linux, you don't really need that anyway. And this is what actually describes the actual main Electron main. So we can go ahead and run Electron main by just specifying it from the list, and you just press the the start debugging button. You're gonna get this control panel in here that allows you to easily control your application. It's clear to see we got the application actually running our Node.js, or pretty much Electron application, and of course we can control it from the control panel. And we got the whole source code now is actually running at the runtime. You're gonna get all the information about it in here from the right hand side. So you can start by placing breakpoints and so on and so forth. So let's say whenever we're trying to create the window, so instead of like toggling the menu, we're gonna place a breakpoint in here. A breakpoint basically means when the code is actually trying to execute, whenever it reaches this particular line, it's just gonna stop, and you can actually inspect the current scope of the module and the current runtime arguments and variables. So you can clearly take a look at what are the arguments and the variables at the current scope, and you can like manipulate them for fixing bugs or just checking the behavior of your code. So you can go ahead and just click the restart button, and it's just gonna restart the whole process for you. Just gonna start the Electron application. And there we go. So clearly see we've got the breakpoint, and the code has stopped executing, and now we got actually the Electron application is not responding whatsoever, simply because we got the breakpoint, so the code hasn't been executed yet. So that's what is causing the crash or the issue. So the toggle up menu now is actually just have a breakpoint. You can add as many breakpoints, but adding a breakpoint, clearly in here, it gives you some variables, which are the current variables inside of the scope, which means inside of the index.js module. So you can check out the global variables like the arrays, which are available by default on every single module, or the local variables, which are this variable inside of the current window or create window function. So actually there's arrays and so on and so forth. You can check out the closures like the directory name, the main application, which are referenced right here. So we got also the dialog, the browser window, and so on and so forth. You can take a look on all of those. You can also check out the call stack, which means like what are going to be called next, and the layouted scripts, so which are the scripts are going to be layouted by the debugger. Actually inside of the src, our main scripts are being running. Here we got, you can just go ahead and check like exceptions are going to be handled or catched by the debugger, or all the exceptions, no matter what it is handled or not, it's just going to be catched. And here's clearly see we're starting not responding. We can just pass away from this exception, and the application would be working pretty much fine. So as soon as we exit the Electron application, the debugging process stops automatically. Now we can just go ahead and go back to the launch.json, and here we got the second thing, which is the rendering process, debugging. So we just put the name of it, render. We use Chrome, and mainly because we are actually running on Chromium, so we're going to be attaching this process to the main Chromium engine that our Electron process actually running on. We won't be actually using this on a separate Chrome process, not even close. We will be just using the application. Since it has the Chrome engine, it's just going to be used as a debugger itself. So we give it a specific ports, which is the same as this one running. So make sure to specify both they're running the same ports. So this can connect actually to the main process and they can actually run together. And also we got the web root, which means, the space or the root workspace. And here are the timeouts. If the script has any issues or something, the debugger is just going to shut down automatically. The last one, we've got compounds, which allows you actually to reference multiple configurations and merge them into a single configuration. So here it allows us actually to run first the main process, then we can run the render process all in a single command. So we can just go from the list, we select electron all, which I've just specified in here, and whenever we hit this button, both first the main process is going to start, then we're going to get the render process start. So we still got our breakpoint in here. We can just go ahead and get rid of it, and we can continue the execution. We're going to get everything working pretty much fine. You can also put breakpoints by opening up the render process. So you can go for the render, you can, for example, go to the configuration, you can put a breakpoint in there, and you can just refresh. As clear as in here, you can also select between these configurations, actually from electron render to electron main, and so on and so forth. And you can use, of course, the debugger by your own. You can, just check out the watch list, the call stack, the evaluation process, and so on and so forth. So this can be really handy when it comes to taking a look on our application and fixing issues and bugs that you don't really know if it does exist or not, or even though the issues that are persistent inside of your application. So using Visual Studio Code debugging environment is a really great choice. I really advise you go ahead and use it if you don't already. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching.